broadcast is presented by the authority of the Pacific Coast Sports Racing Association and the National Association of Professional Racing Leagues Incorporated for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other disseminations or the use of this broadcast without the express written consent of the Pacific Coast Sports Racing Association and the National Association of Professional Racing Leagues Incorporated is prohibited. On the PCSRA Sports and Gaming Channel from Learfield IMG College. Welcome to Triple P on the Blue Hedgehog TV. Now here's the voice of the PCSRA, Mr. Daniel Voiles.
Welcome to the Irish Hills and Coke Zero 400 Race Weekend Edition of Triple P. I'm Daniel Voiles here in our PCSRA studios. Yes, we are back after having a week off from the unfortunate events that happened last week. And we're really excited to have you here in our PCSRA studios, ready to talk about all things racing here for this show. It's going to be a very long show, so buckle up. It should be a lot of fun here today. By the way, I went to make an announcement before I start. You'll get the same exact intro and all that on Spotify. Yes, I will be doing a Spotify version of this episode. I say I'm probably going to go ahead and start having it on Spotify for the rest of the 2024 year so I can start branching it out so I can tell everybody what you guys think about the race weekends and all that, and should be fun. So today we have a lot of stuff to discuss. We first have to recap Michigan because that was the race weekend we didn't do a recap on. So we'll recap that. I'll give you my take on the Michigan weekend since I didn't say much about it. I'm probably going to not talk much about I didn't talk much about it on LTR as far as the Daytona weekend. We'll get to that later. We'll get to IndyCar's Gateway and their race weekend that they had at Portland, their final road course race of the year. We'll also talk about F1 from Dutch. We'll have that later on in the show. I'll give you my thoughts. I'll give you my comments and all that, yada, yada, yada. I'll take you through the top story news, what in the world's been happening since we were last with you 2 weeks ago. And we will get you ready for this weekend's races at Darlington. We got the Xfinity and Cup Series races. We got F1 at the Temple of Speed of Monza. We also have the IndyCar doubleheader at Milwaukee. So grab some snacks, enjoy this awesome episode of this show, and also please go subscribe or go follow my new podcast, Triple P, because like I said, I will be saying the exact same things on here as well as on Spotify. Also, a spoiler warning, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you have not watched the NCAA college football podcast that went up yesterday as of this recording, go check it out. I will have the link down in the description. Follow my podcast, which is the NCAA college football podcast on Spotify. It is free. Please follow that awesome podcast so you do not miss the next episode, because I did a 40-plus minute video or episode actually for that new podcast. So let's talk about Michigan. I know we'll get to Daytona. We'll talk about Daytona later on in the show. I want to get ready to back up to where we last left off in the world of stuff. So let's talk about Michigan, shall we? We're going to start with the Xfinity Series. This is the Cabo Wabo 250, which is, I was told it was like a tequila drink. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. And like I said, just a spare warning. It's been a while since I've done a Triple P episode. So if you see me derping here, there, and everywhere, just you've been forewarned. So, yeah. Anyway. Let's talk about the Cabo Wabo 250 as we're going to dive into the highlights. First, starting with the Michigan weekend that happened 2 weeks ago. Starting with the Xfinity Series, they were back for the first time since the Brickyard 400 race weekend, which is cool. And it was an interesting race, to say the least. Let's tell you how it went down. They had a little bit of a delay because of the weather and all that, yada, 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 but they did get the whole race in, so that's good. We're going to take you to our first caution that took place on lap number 16. The 19 of Taylor Gray was battling underneath another driver. The other driver goes around him, sucks Taylor Gray around, which the back of the car just gets sucked around because every time you're passing on the outside of Michigan, you're the car on the outside. What you do is you pinch the car below on the inside. It just causes the car on the inside to get loose, just sucks the back of the car around. That's what happened to Taylor Gray. Thankfully, he kept it off the wall. After that, shortly after the restart from that incident, more trouble. Sheldon Creed, which we'll talk to him about his race and all that. He spun off turn 4 while battling for the race lead. Same scenario, came off turn 4, sucked the back of the car around, and that was it. And may I remind you, they were running restrictor plate engines with the intermediate package for the Xfinity race. Why, I don't know, but that's NASCAR for you. Stage 1 came to an end, was won by Ryan Sieg. Then we went under the red flag for 10 minutes due to a little rain in the area. But I'll give you your top 10 results from stage number 1. It went to the Ryan Sieg, who won stage 1. Brandon Jones second. Third was Chandler Smith. Fourth went to Justin Allgaier. More on him later on in the show. Fifth went to Lawless Allen, or as Rowdy likes to say, the dumbest name in racing. Also, spoiler warning, if you have not watched Let's Talk Rowdy as of this recording, go check it out, because we talked about Daytona and all the other news and all that. Yeah. Please go subscribe to Rowdy, because he would appreciate you guys, and screw Jim Bob. Sixth went to Austin Hill. Seventh went to Riley Herbst. Eighth, Kyle Sieg. Ninth, AJ Allmendinger. And 10th, Parker Kligerman. And yes, I will tell you, Tyler was whacking off on Tuesday's episodes of LTR. So sorry, Tyler, if you're watching this. So as I said, they had a 10-minute red flag due to rain. They did get the track dry and all that. Just after the restart from that incident, more trouble in turn number 3. Austin Hill got turned around by the 88er Carson Kvapil. More on Carson later on in the race. And then the next incident, we had a big wreck. Riley Herbst misjudged Ryan Sieg, tried to chop off Ryan Sieg, but Sieg had a hell of a run. Spins Riley Herbst into the wall, collected Cole Custer, Sam Mayer, Brandon Jones, and of course Ryan Sieg did touch Riley Herbst. So a case of a misjudgment, if you ask me. So Sieg continued on, but sadly Riley Herbst, Sam Mayer, Brandon Jones sadly went out of the race. Cole Custer and Cole Custer had further problems, which he broke a suspension and ended up finishing in 30th. Stage 2 came to a conclusion after that. Nothing else happened. John Hunter Nemechek won stage 2. He took it over Jesse Love, AJ Allmendinger, Taylor Gray, Sammy Smith, the top 5. Then it went to Chandler Smith, Justin Allgaier, Sheldon Creed, Jeb Burton, and Anthony Alfredo. That was your top 10 as far as that's concerned. Then they had another round of pit stops. And then just after the restart, Lawless Allen's good run came to a screeching halt as he got into an incident with turn 2 with Jeb Burton and Daniel Dye. By the way, was driving the number 10 Kaulig car this week. More about Kaulig Racing's announcement in the top story news once we get done recapping detail and all that, yada, yada, yada. So unfortunate there. Then we had a 14-minute weather delay, so we had more rain come in towards the end of the race. But NASCAR did everything they could to make sure to get the track dry. They did a good job. And then the final caution during NASCAR overtime, Carson Kvapil got turned on the back straightaway at the same time. Chandler Smith and Kyle Sieg got together. Kyle Sieg, and I've never seen this at Michigan. I've seen this in IndyCar type of deals where you see a car flip at Michigan, which in open wheel, it's not a big surprise. With Kyle Sieg, I have never seen an Xfinity car flip at Michigan like that. Just picked up the car, boom, right onto the roof. Thankfully, the grass flipped it over and all that. And Kyle Sieg was okay. Unfortunately, hate that the race ended. And I know a lot of people at first were angry that the caution had to come out for that incident. But you know what? When they saw Kyle Sieg flip, now you know why they threw the caution. So I can't blame NASCAR for doing that, because NASCAR is just trying to make sure they do the right thing. And like I said, the leader already took the white flag, which, by the way, Justin Allgaier won the Cabo Wabo 250 at Michigan, even though it went 3 laps over in that deal. So, yes, only 9 of the 38 starters, by the way, at Michigan for the Xfinity Series failed to finish. So the top 10 results for the Xfinity race: Justin Allgaier, the winner; Sheldon Creed, second; John Nemechek, third; Anthony Alfredo, fourth; Sammy Smith, fifth; Noah Gragson, sixth; Matt DiBenedetto, seventh; Taylor Gray, eighth; Cesar Baccarella, ninth. Good run for Cesar. And A.J. Allmendinger completed the top 10. There's been a lot of news about the lawsuit that's been going on with Alpha Prime Racing as far as Cesar Baccarella's sponsor, but I'm not sure how things have been going with that sponsor ever since. But, you know, at least Cesar Baccarella is doing what he needs to do to continue racing. Then we go to the Cup Series, which went 2 days. They ran Sunday, and I'll explain the rest of the race, because I did watch the rest of the Monday race after I came home from work. I didn't get to watch it live because I have a job. For anybody that doesn't know, I am a busser at Cheddar's here in Yukon, Oklahoma. So I had to focus on going to work, making a living, and yada, 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 which I've told you all that 1,000 times and a half. So, yes. Had a little delay due to rain. They did get the race started, and then off of turn 4, Denny Hamlin spun, which is a big, which the car got loose on him. Thankfully, he kept it out of the wall and continued on his merry little way. Stage 1 came to an end at the same time the rains came, which the top 10 results from Stage 1 was Ryan Blaney, the winner, Chase Elliott second, William Byron third, Bubba Wallace fourth, fifth went to Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch sixth, Brad Keselowski seventh, eighth Martin Truex Jr., ninth Alex Bowman, and 10th Ross Chastain. And then after the pit stops, the rains came. They waited. They tried to get to halfway, and Mother Nature's like, nah, and ended up resuming the Cup race to Monday after it had to be suspended due to inclement weather, which time of the red flag was 17 hours, 15 minutes, and 18 seconds. Yeah, there was. And after that, I saw pictures of people complain and say, well, they should have made it to halfway and all that. I guess not. But we went to Monday, and they ran the rest of the race on Monday. Good for them. So after getting the track dry and everything ready to go, they got Stage 2 going, which started, by the way, on Monday, which is the resumption of the race that was suspended. And the first yellow after the race got moved to Monday, we had a debris caution on lap 110. And then the next wreck happened with Kyle Larson getting loose, collecting Chase Briscoe, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, who had a solid run going, Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, and Todd Gillen involved. That was not good for Bubba Wallace getting involved, because he was one of the drivers right near that cut line as far as the playoff situation is concerned in that deal. Unfortunately, Larson, Logano, Bell, Gillen, and I believe the 14. Yeah, the 14. Well, the 14 happened in another incident, but all of those drivers were done for the day. We talked about Kyle Sieg's flip in the Xfinity Series race, where it picked up it flipped randomly. Well, guess what? It happened again in the Cup race, this time with Corey LaJoie. Came into the inside, made a little contact with Noah Gragson, and what's really weird is I've never seen this at Michigan. Like I said, I've seen this at like you see this at restrictor plate tracks like Daytona, Talladega, where the car comes up in the air and normally sits back down, or and we've seen it a couple of times at Daytona. We'll document that when we recap Daytona later on in the show. Is that when Corey LaJoie spun, it just picked up the car. It never sat back down, landed on his roof, long slide. And the thing is, it was on the pavement. Both flips, the landing was on the pavement. And then they flipped it back over. And then it flipped and landed on their wheels in the grass. And that's what happened to Corey LaJoie. And he said he had a lot of grass inside the car and a lot of dirt. So, yeah, which was scary. I mean, we've never seen two flips on the same weekend at Michigan. And that is bizarre. You don't normally see that at Michigan. You see that like Daytona or anything like that, or whatever. So it's weird seeing it on a big track, especially Michigan when it's the fastest track and the only 2-mile track that we have on the NASCAR schedule. So yes, Corey LaJoie ended up finishing 32nd. We mentioned Chase Briscoe retired out of the race on that incident. And then with 4 laps to go, towards the end of the regular schedule distance of 200 laps, Martin Truex Jr. got loose, got up in the wall, and set up NASCAR overtime. The first NASCAR overtime incident, we had Ross Chastain spin on the back straightaway. Thankfully, kept all four tires on the ground, but his race was ruined. And also, I mentioned Ross Chastain is also another one of those drivers, also flirting with that cut line as far as the playoffs is concerned. But Tyler Reddick had the dominant car of the race and took home the win in the Firekeepers Casino 400, his second win on the season. It was his 7th career Cup Series win. I forgot to mention Justin Allgaier, his 25th win and his second on the season. So the top 10 results for the Cup Series race. Tyler Reddick, the winner. William Byron, 2nd. Ty Gibbs, 3rd. Kyle Busch, 4th. Brad Keselowski, 5th. Chris Buescher, 6th. Nice top 10 run for Zane Smith. Daniel Suarez in 8th. We'll talk about his big news today. Denny Hamlin, 9th. And Spire made it 2 cars inside the top 10. Only, let me see here. Only, like I said, 6 of the 36 starters from the Cup race at Michigan that failed to finish that race. Then IndyCar took on the Bommarito Automotive Group 500, which, by the way, delayed the Xfinity Series race. First wreck was Catherine Lay getting turned and going into the inside wall. Pato O'Ward had an engine problem on lap 42. Kevin Simpson had contact. Marcus Ericsson had a couple mechanical failures, so did Graham Rahal. Kyle Kirkwood was in an incident on lap 207. Lap 238, David Malukas was involved. Then the controversy incident. Joseph Newgarden was leading coming to the restart. Will Power accelerate, checked up, got rear-ended from the back by Jack Harvey and collected Alexander Rossi in the process. They were done for the day. They were 10 of the 27 starters in the IndyCar race which failed to finish back at Gateway, which is near St. Louis, Missouri. I've been to St. Louis numerous times on my trips when I used to have family people up there in O'Fallon, Illinois, and I always go past Gateway, and also Busch Dam and all that. So yeah, I know St. Louis because, like I said, I've been up there several times, so I know what it's like. So yes, which Will Power, and we'll talk about Will Power in the IndyCar race at Portland. Will Power gave his teammate the bird, which I don't think sat well with Roger Penske, and so I'm kind of surprised that Will Power didn't get punished for flipping for the bird flipping off, to be quite honest with you, because back in the day, when they raced at Loudon, Will Power did the two birds, costed him 50 grand. I'm kind of surprised they didn't find him like 25 grand or maybe 50 grand or whatever, which I find it weird that they didn't penalize him for that, but I'm kind of disappointed. But, it is what it is. But as far as that is concerned. So the top 10 results from the Gateway race at IndyCar for St. Louis for the IndyCar Series. Joseph Newgarden, the winner. Scott McLaughlin, second. Linus Lundqvist, third. Alex Palou, fourth. Colton Herta, fifth. Felix Rosenqvist, sixth. Nolan Siegel, seventh. Marcus Armstrong, eighth. Stingray Robb, ninth. And Renus VK complete the top 10. So this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you, first off, my thoughts on the Michigan and Gateway. Let's start off with Michigan. I was not expecting a flip fest, to be fair with you all. I was expecting, a calm, fun race. I was not expecting Michigan to be a flip fest, but you know what? It is what it is. I thought it was a fun race. I thought the drivers were trying to be a little bit more patient with one another, and all that, yada, yada, yada. The race, I thought, was a really fun race, in my opinion. And, I hate it for, Will Power to get screwed out of a win, but it is what it is. And that's the nature of racing at Gateway and Michigan. I'm hoping they do something with the speeds, probably like either lower the horsepower or lower the drag or something, because seeing two cars flip over at Michigan is very unheard of. Very unheard of. And something needs to be done about that. So that's something that NASCAR is going to have to figure out what they need to do to fix that. And so that's something they're going to have to address going forward as far as that's concerned. So something needs to be addressed. Gateway was good. I hate it for Catherine Legg. Could have been her final IndyCar race and all that, yada yada yada. But it is what it is. And as far as that's concerned, of course, I got Canapino is out for the rest of the year. I don't know what his plans are for next year, which sucks. But it is what it is as well. So, and yeah, so. That was the Michigan Gateway weekend. So, looking forward to seeing that happen. So, let me go ahead and post this out for everybody on Instagram. By the way, you can follow me on Instagram. So, yeah. All right. So, that was the Michigan Gateway situation. Now let's talk about the race weekend. We're going to first start off with the F1 race. And if you thought Max Verstappen was going to win, that didn't happen. It was actually Lando Norris who won the race. Nothing really happened in that race, to be honest with you. So the top 10 results for the F1 race from Zandvoort. Lando Norris, the winner. Max Verstappen, second. Charles Leclerc, third. Oscar Piastri, fourth. Carlos Sainz Jr. in fifth. Sergio Perez, sixth. George Russell, seventh. Much needed points for Russell. Remember, if you go back to the Belgium Grand Prix, he won the race only to get disqualified for failing inspection, which I felt so bad for Georgie. But, I'm glad to see he finally got some points. Lewis Hamilton, 8th, Pierre Gasly, 9th, and Fernando Alonso, the top 10. Everybody did finish the race, but that race was kind of, quote, boring. So let's talk about the Portland race for IndyCar. It was a good race. I felt bad for Scott Dixon, got wrecked on the first lap, which Pedro Fittipaldi got a penalty for causing a collision on the first lap, which you got to be a lot smarter than that, if you know what I mean, because it's lap one, turn one of 110 laps, and I just don't know what he was thinking. I hate that for Scott Dixon because that's going to possibly end a chance to tie Lewis Hamilton, Jimmy Johnson for his 7th championship in a single season, in the single series. So that sucks for him. We also had ex-F2 driver Yuri Vips making his debut. So there was 28 starters instead of the regular 27 that we're used to. And speaking of Will Power, he ended up winning the race at Portland. So the top 10 results from the IndyCar race. Will Power, the winner. Alex Palou, second. Joseph Newgarden, third. Colton Herta, fourth, with Marcus Armstrong, fifth. Marcus Ericsson, sixth. Scott McLaughlin, seventh. Santino Ferrucci, after starting on the pole, finishes eighth. Graham Rahal, ninth. Kyle Kirkwood, the top 10. Romain Grosjean was penalized for a unsportsmanlike conduct, which and then as he was getting away, he got spun by another driver, so they end up penalizing 3 laps so far. And only Scott Dixon was the only driver of the 28 starters that failed to finish the IndyCar race. So that's a tough break for Scott Dixon. Hopefully he'll have a better result when IndyCar heads to the Milwaukee Mile this weekend, which we'll talk about the Milwaukee Mile coming up in a little bit. First, let's talk about Daytona. We're going to start with the Xfinity Series. Normally, I would say we start off with the Truck Series, but in the order of the races, we're going to start off with the Xfinity Series at Daytona for the Walla 250 powered by Coca-Cola, which thankfully it was a dry weekend at Daytona, so I'm happy for that. Not even 3/4 of a lap in, we already had trouble. Jeremy Clements got spun going into turn 3, collected Akinori Ogata. Ryan Ellis, Austin Hill, Gus Dean making his Xfinity Series debut. Blaine Perkins, Kyle Sieg. Gus Dean, I mentioned, making his debut. The 26 of Jeffrey Earnhardt, and also the 7 of Justin Allgaier, and also Ryan Ellis. So that was and the 14 car of CJ McLaughlin. So that was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 car wreck right out of the gate. And as Gus Dean was trying to get back to pit road, looks like the engine went kablamo and his day was done. Ogata was done for the night. Ryan Ellis was done for the night. And the reason and also Austin Hill did get off the damaged vehicle policy, but because of the fumes, had to take his car to the garage so he can get some air. But hate that for Austin Hill, who will not sweep Daytona this season. You're actually going to be surprised who actually won the Xfinity race if you didn't tune into the race on Friday night. After the cleanup from that, we ran the rest of stage 1 clean. That went to the honor of Justin Allgaier. Chandler Smith, second. Third went to A.J. Allmendinger. Fourth went to Sheldon Creed. Fifth, Parker Kligerman. Ryan Truex, sixth, who, by the way, was in the 20 this week. Anthony Alfredo, 7th. Josh Williams, 8th. 9th is Sammy Smith. And 10th went to Jeremy Clements, who rebounded from that spin. Should mention Tim Veens making his Xfinity debut, blew up on lap number 15, so he was done for the day. Then we had a nice little long run, but then on lap 60 of the 100 laps, we had our second yellow of the race, which, by the way, ended stage number 2, which we'll get to that in just a second. Jesse Love got into the 5 of Anthony Alfredo. Alfredo goes up in the wall. As that happens, Sam Mayer jerks his car to the left, trying to avoid Anthony Alfredo, and spins out. Thankfully, didn't hit anything. Unfortunately, the 1, 2, and 5 did continue on. And as I said, that ended stage 2, which Allgaier ended up winning. Second this time, however, was Riley Herbst. Ryan Truex finished in third. A.J. Allmendinger fourth. Jeff Burton fifth. Sixth went to Parker Kligerman. Seventh went to Sheldon Creed. Chandler Smith eighth. Ninth went to Brandon Jones. And 10th went to the 11 of Josh Williams. So we were done with all that and all that good stuff for these stages. Just after the restart from that incident, Brandon Jones spun on the back straightaway. Didn't hit anything. And then we had another big wreck. Cole Custer got involved with Jesse Love. This was coming out of the Troy-Oval. Collected Parker Retzlaff, Jeff Burton, the 8 of Sammy Smith, Brandon Jones, Matt DiBenedetto, Cesar Baccarella, and the 28 of Kyle Sieg. Sieg continued on. The rest of those other drivers were finished for the 9th. Jeffrey Earnhardt got into another incident, this time with Jeremy Clements, Baccarella, the 92 this week, driven by Josh Bilicki, Anthony Alfredo, Shane Van Gisbergen, which caused a red flag. And then the final caution of the race, A.J. Allmendinger gets spun by Parker Kligerman and almost collected the 51 of Jeremy Clements. That ended the race. And Ryan Truex ended up taking the Xfinity Series win at Daytona in the Wawa 250 powered by Coca-Cola. Unfortunately, before any of you say, did Ryan Truex make the playoffs? The answer is no. The 20, however, gets more playoff points because, remember, the 20 is running for the Owners' Championship because that is an all-star team. Same deal with the 19. So even if the Ryan Truex won the race, it didn't do anything as far as the playoff grid is concerned with the amount of races we have left in the playoffs. So the top 10 results for the Xfinity race: Ryan Truex, the winner; Chandler Smith, second; Parker Kligerman, third; Riley Herbst, fourth; Ryan Sieg, fifth; Jordan Anderson, sixth; Justin Allgaier, seventh; Sheldon Creed, eighth; Leland Honeyman, ninth; and Kyle Weatherman completed the top 10. We had, counting on my deal here, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 38 starters, just like Michigan, unfortunately, who failed to finish this race. So we had the same number of drivers that failed to finish at Michigan that we had for Daytona. Then we go to the Cup race for the Coke Zero 400, powered by Coca-Cola. Nothing happened in stage 1, I can tell you, but something did happen after stage 1. Josh Berry won stage 1 over Joey Logano, Chris Buescher, Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney was your top 5. Todd Gillen, Brad Keselowski, Michael McDowell, William Byron, and Kyle Larson, the top 10. And I'll tell you why I say it got interesting, because just after the pit stops, things got hot real quickly for Daniel Suarez. Looked like a fuel spill, which Hamlin ran over it, caused a massive fire, went up into Daniel Suarez's car, and we thought, okay, they're going to calm the fire. Right? Wrong. It ended up bursting into flames. And unfortunately, Daniel Suarez was flaming. And I came back and I saw Suarez's car on fire, and I went, that didn't look good. And unfortunately, Daniel Suarez had to come to pit road, had to get out of the car, and he ended up finishing 40th. NASCAR said they told Suarez that he can come back out if you want to, but I'm thinking in the back of my mind, NASCAR, you can't be fucking stupid. The car caught on fucking fire. What kind of stupidity do you have? Saying, oh, Suarez, you can go back in if you want to. When the car caught fire. You can't make this shit up. So unfortunately, Daniel Suarez was done after stage 1 and done for the race. He was ticked, but he's fine. Unfortunately, a burnt Coke Zero Sugar Chevrolet, which, by the way, I'm having a Coke Zero as I'm doing this episode of Triple P in the process. So, tough break for Suarez, but glad he's all right and continuing on like nothing even happened in that regard. Then we go to stage number dos. And as I don't know what's going on with my thingy here. Oh, wait, let's do this. Let's do this. I don't need to hear that. Thank you very much. So, just after the restart, the dreaded big one struck that took out half the field. It collected the following drivers: Ross Chastain, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Preece, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, who did get through somewhat unscathed, even though he got involved in another incident later race. Kyle Larson, Daniel Hemrick, Corey LaJoie, who is still looking for a ride next year after his announcement he will not be back with Spire next year. Defending Cup champion Ryan Blaney, Austin Dillon, which we will talk about him in the top story news about him. Denny Hamlin, Noah Gragson, Christopher Bell, and John Hunter Nemechek. All those cars spinning on the back straightaway. Elliott, Gragson, Hamlin, and Preece. Oh, we'll also mention about Denny Hamlin's penalty coming up in our top story news when we get to that bridge. So, if I count here, we had, I would say, almost half the field taken out in that wreck. So, and this was a big blow for Chase Elliott because he was one of the drivers that was still eligible to win the regular season championship along with Kyle Larson, and those two did not need that bad result in the process. So, yeah. That's a shame, but tough break for them as far as that is concerned. After we got all that cleaned up, possible fluid from SVG's engine grenaded while Ryan Truex Jr. MTJ and Eric Jones had tire problems. Kablamo! The big engine exploded on SVG's car, which is too bad because SVG had a good run, got taken out of a wreck late in the Xfinity race. And we thought, well, he's going to have a good run for the Cup race, right? Wrong. The engine grenaded on him. And the best part is I saw it on side-by-side because NBC started doing side-by-side for Daytona. They're going to do it for Atlanta as well as Talladega, where they're not going to have full-screen commercials unless it's a caution or a red flag. So, yeah. But that's a shame for SVG. He had a good run. And, of course, coming off the which we'll actually talk about his top story news. I don't want to spoil it and get ahead of myself and say, well, I can't believe you spoiled the news there, Danny. I'm like, sorry. So, yeah. So, SVG finished 35th, which is too bad for him, but he's an Xfinity driver and running for Xfinity points. The rest of Stage 2 went calm and clean. That went to Joey Logano. Ryan Blaney battling through the wreck got second. Brad Keselowski third. Fourth, Kyle Larson. Fifth, Todd Gilliland. Sixth went to Justin Haley. Seventh, Kyle Busch. Eighth went to William Byron. Ninth went to Chris Buescher. And 10th went to Bubba Wallace. And a lot of these drivers that needed stage points are either in the cut line or trying to get a win, excluding Cody Ware, to make the playoffs, providing which is critical for them. It's either win and make the playoffs or get eliminated and not even, because I don't see any of them winning at Darlington, those that are in a must-win situation. But, you know, this was their only chance to make the playoffs, is winning this race at Daytona. So, yes. Then we went into a long green flag run, but then on lap 141 of the 160-lap scheduled race, John Hunter Nemechek got spun out of the lead of the race, and the rest was history. Corey LaJoie did clear the damaged vehicle policy, but he was like 32 laps down. So, yeah, not a fun night for him. And then it got wild. With 9 laps to go in the race, Michael McDowell got bumped wrong by Austin Cindric and caused a wreck. Michael McDowell almost went upside down, which he did collect. Larson, Wallace, Logano, Bowman, Reddick, Haley, tough break for Haley. Byron, Blaney, Bush. Kyle Busch did get through that somehow. Bell got somewhat involved, but continued on. Ricky Stenhouse, the 17 Chris Buescher, and the 33 of Austin Hill. So a bad night got worse for Austin Hill as far as that is concerned. Which I felt bad for Austin Hill getting involved in a incident on the first lap of the Xfinity race, and then had a good run going, and got taken out late. So that sucks, but it is what it is. Hopefully, he can have a bounce back result this weekend for Darlington in the Xfinity Series and all that. So, and then 2 laps to go. Cindric, I just mentioned, and Josh Berry got into an incident. Josh Berry's car, like Corey LaJoie back at Michigan, went up in the air, went flipping, and stayed on his roof. The race had to be a red flag for 7 minutes to get Corey LaJoie's, Josh Berry's car back on its wheels. And that was pretty much a shame. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to make sure I count that right here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15 of the 40 starters, by the way, failed to finish the Coke 0400. Then we had another overtime. Parker Retzlaff pushed Harrison Burton around Kyle Busch, and Harrison Burton pulls the upset. A driver who is going to be without a ride next year, whose Cup career we don't know what's going to happen, goes around and wins the Coke 0400 powered by Coca-Cola. Wonderful win for Harrison. His dad was elated, and Harrison Burton, unlike what Austin Dillon did, which we will talk about Austin Dillon in our top story news and headlines on Triple B, at least it was done cleanly. A certain person said, well, Harrison Burton got forced below the yellow line. Well, here's the problem. Harrison got turned by Kyle Busch coming to the checker flag. He was already past Kyle Busch when he went below the yellow line. So it was by contact. And we didn't want another Justin Haley incident from 2018 where Haley got penalized because he went below the yellow line just to avoid a 3-wide deal. So, for somebody that says, well, he shouldn't have gotten the win. Yes, he did, because he damn well earned it. He did it way fucking better than fucking Austin Dillon, who just fucking sent it into the shadow rim, wrecked Logano and right rear hooked Hamlin, which I will talk about that in just a second in our top story news. So, great win for Harrison Burton. I'm not sure what his plans are for next year for the Cup Series, but he did a fucking awesome job. He drove the fucking wheels off that car. So, yes. So the top 10 results for the Cup race. Harrison Burton wins in the playoffs. Congratulations to him. Kyle Busch second, Christopher Bell third, Cody Ware fourth, Ty Gibbs fifth, Bubba Wallace sixth. Nice top 10 run for Parker Retzlaff. His best finish in the Cup Series, if I'm not mistaken, in seventh. And I find this really funny is that Parker Retzlaff, he finished 5 laps down at Richmond. Top 10 in his Cup debut. Xfinity hasn't been kind to him, but he did a great job. I mean, look at this. He beats Brian Keselowski, he is 8th, Daniel Hemrick, Chris Buescher, top 10. Look at these names that Parker Retzlaff beat. Ross Chastain, battling for a playoff berth. Bubba Wallace, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano. He even tried almost beat Kyle freaking Busch. Think about that. I know some people are bitching about the Harrison Burton deal, but you need to put that to the side and think about freaking an awesome job by the 62 of Parker Retzlaff in his second Cup start. First career top 10. Round of a fucking applause to that team. And a couple of other shout-outs I need to hand out. BJ McLeod, Joey Gase, great runs for them. Joey Gase, we didn't know if he was going to run any more Cup races after the last race of the Gen 6 back 3 years ago. And, finally got a sponsor. And, for him to get a top 20 with NY Racing, which, by the way, that is one of their better results of the season. Well done to that 44 team. And hopefully they will be at Talladega, because I would love to see Joey Gase. And the good thing is Joey Gase brought the car home in one piece. So I bet you they'll probably run that same sponsor at Talladega, because Joey Gase drove a great result. Even though he didn't have a good result in the Xfinity race, he redeemed himself in the Cup race so far. So that means we're down to one race in the Cup Series playoffs. But we go to Milwaukee for the Truck Series. Of course, William Sawalich, by the way, won the ARCA race. Let's talk about the opening race of the playoffs, because I will talk about the playoff standings in just a second. We kicked off the first race of the round of 10, playoff opener, which meant if any of our 10 playoff drivers or owner playoff driver teams that go to victory lane, they would be automatically in a lock-in spot into the round of 8, regardless of the next 2 races at Bristol and our first elimination race at Kansas. The only caution of the race was the Jason Alexander, who got loose. He said he got loose, got up into the wall, and that was the only incident we had in the race, which, by the way, ended stage 1, went to Ty Dillon, by the way, which they were trying to do a 1-lap dash. Unfortunately, they had to add a lap, which thankfully they ended the stage. So I guess they saved the fresh tires and went back to green in stage 2. Jake Garcia second. Third went to Christian Eckes, playoff driver. Playoff driver Ty Majeski in 4th. Playoff driver Nick Sanchez 5th. Lane Riggs, who was recently eliminated from the playoffs after the last race at Richmond, got 6th. Daniel Dye 7th, another playoff driver. Tanner Gray, who was recently eliminated in 8th from the playoffs after Richmond. And then Taylor Gray, Tyler Ingram, 9th and 10th. Those were 2 playoff contenders, which are key stage points as far as that is concerned. By the way, only 2 of the 36 trucks in the race at Milwaukee, by the way, failed to finish. Jason Alexander and Lawless Allen, or in Browdy likes to say, 35th does not get mentioned because he's got the demonstration racing. So, yeah, stage 2, nothing happened. Christian Eckes won that stage over Ty Majeski, Lane Riggs, Nick Sanchez, Taylor Gray, Daniel Dye, Tyler Ankrum, Matt Crafton, who was recently eliminated after Richmond, Caden Honeycutt, and Grant Enfinger, the top 10. Now, I know some of you are asking, wait a minute, why did the 45 and the 7 make the playoffs? Let me remind you, there's 2 playoffs we have here. We have the Truck Series playoff drivers with Rhodes and Daniel Dye. Of course, their team owners did not make the playoffs. The 7 and the 45 made the playoffs in the owner standings. So there is 2 playoff battles that are going on, which is the owners and the drivers. The drivers would get more money than the owners, and the owners would get more money than the drivers and all that. I know it's confusing, but that's the nature in that. Nothing happened in stage 3, and Lane Riggs played spoiler in the playoffs 1 week after getting eliminated from the playoffs. He gets his first career win. Happy for him and Scott Riggs, but like I said, it came 1 week too late. If that was the regular season finale for trucks at Milwaukee, he would have been in the playoffs and possibly would have been in the Elite 8, but we'll never know. Maybe next year he will. Maybe next year. I mean, he's had a poor rookie year, but, he's already going to lock up the rookie of the year honors. I can tell you that for sure. So, yeah. So the top 10 results for the truck race at Milwaukee, the Luna 175, which went green the rest of the way, which I'm happy for. No issues. Lane Riggs win, and then the rest of the top 8 were playoff contenders. Non-playoff contender Matt Crafton 10th. 2nd through 9th were playoff contenders of Ty Majeski, Christian Eckes, Nick Sanchez, Taylor Gray, Tyler Ingram, Corey Heim, Daniel Dye, and Ben Rhodes. Where did the rest of your playoff drivers finish as far as owner and drivers? Let's see. Caden Honeycutt finished 12th. Grant Enfinger 13th. Sammy Smith 17th. And Raja Caruth ended up 18th. So going into Bristol, The two drivers below the cut line are Ben Rhodes, 2 points below, and Roger Carruth, 4 points below the cut line. And then the two Spire teams of the 71 and the 7 are the two below the cut line. So for the 7, 71, 99, and let's see, 71, 7 in the owners. And then for Carruth and Ben Rhodes, those drivers need to have a good run at Bristol or could find themselves heading into Kansas for the first elimination race in an absolute must-win situation. So there you go. Now, my thoughts on, I'm going to start with Milwaukee. Not a good race. I'm going to say 4. That race was so boring. I could go get an ice cream cone and have time and go watch a kite or something, because that was how boring it was. Even though it was Common Collective, it was not a fun one so far. I mean, Portland was okay. Dutch Grand Prix may not be coming back after next year. Who the hell knows? Daytona was awesome. Daytona was the best race out of the whole weekend. And I've said that. And, it really frustrates me that, I'm saying that. And I know some people are going to be like, well, I would probably see where you're coming from. Yeah. I've been hyping about Daytona. I didn't care about Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee is Milwaukee. And, and it was already announced that Milwaukee's not coming back, according to rumors. And until I hear a source from Bob Pockrass and all that, do not quote me on that. You will find that out if Milwaukee will stay on the schedule or not. We'll see. I know some people say probably get rid of Milwaukee. Just wait until Bob Pockrass confirms about that. So, yeah. Speaking of news, let's get to the headlines on Triple P. There's been rumors that Sergio Perez, Logan Sargent could be replaced as early as this weekend if he doesn't get his performance together. James Val, the team principal at Williams, says that he is getting his patience is starting to run thin on the American driver. And right now, Logan Sargent, who's leaving Williams at the end of the year, we do not know where he will go next year. Denny Hamlin was docked 75 driver and owner points. The team will not appeal that penalty after Toyota TRD, who screwed up, and I don't know what the hell is going on at Toyota in the Cup Series with their engine issues of late. Apparently what happened was they tore the engine out of the race-winning car from Bristol and re-ran it again after taking the seal off. TRD notified NASCAR they made a mistake, and that's why Denny Hamlin got slapped 75 driver and owner points in that regard. Parker Kligerman was docked 10 playoff points and also was docked 20 driver points for a spoiler that did not meet NASCAR's requirements during pre-race inspection at Michigan International Speedway. And Austin Dillon had his appeal heard, his final appeal heard. He actually had both appeals to appeal his penalty, his 75-point penalty, and the spotter suspension was already served at Michigan for his running in the back of Joey Logano and right rear hooking Denny Hamlin. Both appeals were heard. Both appeals were denied this week, so not surprised there. So that means Austin Dillon now enters Darlington in a must-win situation, even though 9 times out of 10, we already know this, Austin Dillon's already out of the playoff hunt, and he was already going to be a round of 16 exit anyway. So what difference does that make, if you know what I mean? So, it sucks for Austin Dillon, but guess what? He did it to himself as far as that is concerned. You look at the playoff picture after what has happened so far. Nothing happened in the playoff grid. The one-time winners of Cup, Herbst, Love already locked in the playoffs with the races we got coming up. Because, like I said, I can tell you, Cup drivers are probably going to win 3 of those races. Because remember, the regular season finale at Bristol will not have Cup drivers. Plus, it will be the debut of the CW that we will have here this weekend, or going at the Bristol weekend. So, yes. Also, Lee Diffie made his debut in the series. So, yeah. So right now, Justin Allgaier, Chandler Smith, Austin Hill, Cole Custer, Shane Van Gisbergen, Riley Herbst, Jesse Love, Sam Mayer. Already in the playoffs, AJ Allmendinger has 113 points above the cut line. 93 for Sheldon Creed, 44 for Parker Kligerman. Ryan Sieg has 15 points above the cut line over Sammy Smith. Brandon Jones on down are in a must-win situation, which the chances of them winning those next races is looking slimmer to none because Daytona was their last chance to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, they are definitely not going to make the playoffs in regard. And talking about the Cup Series, now that we're in the discussion, is that now Austin Dillon now needs to wins Darlington this weekend. Like I said, that's not going to probably happen, knowing off the deal. Martin Truex Jr. is a lucky man because thanks to Austin Dillon having his both appeals denied, shut up, stomach, I'm talking. After having both of his appeals denied by the appeal committee, sits 58 points above the cut line. Barring a new winner, Truex would be safe to make the playoffs. Ty Gibbs, 39 points above the cut line. He would be, I think he needs to stay out of trouble if he wants to make the playoffs. And then Chris Buescher, 21 points above the cut line. He better be thankful he's not below the cut line because if he would, that would have really screwed him out of the playoffs. But since Austin Dillon's win got denied, he still has a chance to make the playoffs. So that's good. Bubba Wallace, 21 points below the cut line. Ross Chastain, who was above the cut line, is below the cut line at 27. And then everybody else is in a must-win situation. Of course, Harrison Burton was 34th in the standings, up into 13th. Now, I've seen a lot of people complaining about, why did they get rid of the top 30 in points? I think they want to have like an even playing field, because I'm still going to do the top 30 in owner points for my series because I want to make sure drivers want to go for the win, try to go for, trying to make sure they stay consistent because it doesn't matter if you have 5 wins. It doesn't matter if you have 10 wins. As we've talked about it in the NR community, if you're not in the top 30 in the points table by the regular season checkered flag, you're not battling for a championship. And it doesn't matter where you are in the points table. So, Harrison Burton, who was like 34th in the points, it's good. It's good to see him go to victory lane, make the playoffs. And some people are saying like, well, it's a waste of a space. So what if it's a waste of a space? A driver earned it. And think about this, folks. You're talking about $3 to maybe $10 million that could be a big difference for your funding next year. For your funding. Because remember, Josh Berry, who's leaving the 4 team at the end of the year, he's going to the Wood Brothers. Harrison Burton, we don't know where the hell he's going to because Chase Briscoe, who's driving for SHR, he's moving over to the Wood Brothers in 2025 because SHR is shutting down at the end of the year. So there you go. I mentioned about Shane Van Gisbergen. He will be going full-time in the Cup Series. He's also going to run he's going to be running 7 more starts, including this weekend at Darlington. Whoop, whoop. The 88 car will be the third charter for Trackhouse. That means Zane Smith will be finding a ride with Front Row Motorsports next season. That's the rumors I'm hearing. Riley Herbst has no plans because it was announced that Sam Mayer and Sheldon Creed are both moving over to the Haas Factory team in the Xfinity Series in 2025. I'm not excited about Creed because he's yet to win in that car. But, Sam Mayer, I think he's going to have good talent. I think he has a chance to probably show what he can do. I'm not confident for Creed. I'm confident for Sam Mayer, and that's how I feel about it. So, good for him as far as that's concerned. And, I wish Sam Mayer good luck. But, he still has a chance to make the playoffs here in the Xfinity Series in 2024. Let me see. What was the next topic I was going to say? Of course, I talked about SVG going full-time driving the 88 car. He'll have a third charter from SHR, which that's probably where it's going to come from. The Project 91, I do want to bring this discussion up. A lot of people have been asking about, is the Project 91 dead? The answer is no, according to Justin Marks. They're still going to run Superstars. So don't rule out a Lewis Hamilton attempting the Daytona 500 in the near future, or maybe a Kimi Räikkönen returning, or Jenson Button, or possibly Scott McLaughlin. It would be nice to see all that. As we've had an hour on the show. How about that? Imagine that. We haven't done that in a long time. I think it's been a while since we've had an hour into Triple P, but I will take that nevertheless. Let me see. What was the next discussion I was going to mention? Formula E already dropped Portland and all that. Their first race is actually later in the year, towards the end of the season, which I'm actually going to save their recap for the debut of Spotify next year. So hooray for that. So should be fun. Let me actually pull up J-Ski to see what else was in the news. Besides Austin Dillon's appeal being denied, NASCAR is about to announce the schedule, which was announced yesterday. I will discuss more about that on Triple P next week. NASCAR interest in San Diego in the future and all that. So, cool thing about the Wood Brothers, it was their 100th Cup Series win, so that's cool. Harrison Burton's first career Cup win in his 98th start, so congratulations to him. And let's see here. I think that's about it as far as that's concerned. Oh, yeah, I talked about Truck Series will not return to Milwaukee in 2025. That's when the schedule will be coming out. Not sure what's going to happen. So, yeah. I'm not sure if we had any other top story news. Let me look at Bob Pockrass. And Pockrass mentioned, would Kyle Busch be racing in Mexico after what happened earlier? He said, it is my understanding that Kyle Busch will be good to race in Mexico. So, yeah. Since he had 6 months. So, yeah. Let's see here. Upper Deck will be on Tyler Reddick's car this weekend, which we will discuss about that. And also we had the IMSA MX5 Cups doing testing at the Martinsville track, which I'm really excited to see that, if they are going to do that race live and all that. So, yeah. All right. Looking here. Also, I should mention all of the Cup crews did make it to Milwaukee in time, so there would be no issues for non-competitive pit stops. Thank goodness for that. The Denny Hamlin penalty, and like I said, Denny Hamlin's not going to appeal that, so, it sucks for Hamlin. He dropped from battling for the regular season title to 8th. Ouch. And looking at the gap, he's 36 points above the cut line as far as 10th, because remember, top 10 will get additional playoff points towards the reformatted standings after this weekend's race at Michigan. So, yeah. That's pretty much self-explanatory. Kyle Larson's team leads the owner standings by 7 points over 2311 Racing. Sorry about my laptop going black. I don't want this show to get cut as far as that's concerned. Yes, and only Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott can win the regular season championship, which will have 15 playoff points going into Atlanta. That will start the playoffs next week, which we will see the yellow banners, the yellow spoilers, which you will definitely tell those cars apart versus those that did not make the playoffs. So, yes, it is off to Italy this weekend. Our predictions, by the way, will be in the description. Or in the PCS Array Discord. Link will be on my channel when you click to my channel. So, yes. So, we're off to Darlington. This weekend, we also have the IndyCar race at Milwaukee. You can watch it on USA, which I actually need to see the motorsport schedule. Okay. So we have upcoming events. We have the IndyCar race this weekend. You can catch the that is not what I want, you stupid thing. It is going to be at the Milwaukee Mile. As I'm going to go ahead and pull this up so I do not forget. So, yeah, you can watch the IndyCar race Saturday and Sunday on, I believe it's on USA, but I'm going to double check. I believe it will be on let's see here for the race, as I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on my phone here. You can catch race 1 of the Milwaukee Miles Saturday after the Xfinity race on Peacock. Race 2 will be Sunday at 2:30 Eastern on USA Network before the Cup race. So, yay. The Italy race will be on ESPN and all that, yada, yada, yada. So, yeah. So, it is time to get ready to preview Darlington, as we're back at Darlington for the first time since the throwback race. We only have the 2 series this weekend. We have the Xfinity Series. You can catch the Sports Clip Haircuts Help a Hero 200, presented by Veterans of Foreign Wars, or VFW for short. Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on USA Network. You can catch the race on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. And then you can catch the 75th Annual Cookout Southern 500 Sunday after the IndyCar race at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on USA Network, and also on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. Should be a lot of fun for those races. And like I said, all the predictions and all that will be in the PCS Array Discord as far as that is concerned. And yeah, so it should be a lot of fun. So really excited to see what we will see from the race weekend of all, and should be fun for Darlington. Last chance for the Cup Series drivers before the playoffs, which means when the checker flag waves, we will have our 16 drivers that will battle in this season's chase for the Cup Series championship. And they will be the 16 drivers, as that is not what I was looking for, you stupid phone. I was looking for the video producer. Thank you very much. Yes, I have to log in. Here we go again with this shit. 461265. No, I said 6, you darping hyena. Is it 6? Yeah, okay. So, should be a lot of fun, and can't wait to see what happens here at the Milwaukee Mile, as well as this weekend at Darlington in Italy, as far as that's concerned. It's the final race in Europe before we head to Azerbaijan. Yes, which I feel weird going to Azerbaijan later in the year than earlier in the season. So, yes. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of Triple P, and all that good stuff. So yeah, there was no NR news, because in fact, there's not going to be any NR news. We're probably going to save all that for the for when we move to Spotify in 2025, and should be a lot of fun. I of course will tape the first episode by myself, but I will have expert panel to join me for Spotify. We'll have longer shows, longer podcasts, blah blah blah. I've told the panelists we're not going to be doing the goofing around and all that, yada, yada, yada. We're going to take it seriously and all that good stuff. So that's how it is so far. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of Triple P. Join us next week when we recap Italy. We'll recap the Milwaukee Mile. We'll recap Darlington. And we look ahead to Atlanta. We also have the championship race at Nashville for the IndyCar series to preview, to find out who our championship protagonists will be at Nashville Super Speedway and all that. It should be a lot of fun as far as that's concerned. With that being said, I want to thank you guys a lot for joining me for this episode of Triple P. And if you guys like this episode, be sure to give it a like. If you haven't considered subscribing yet, I highly recommend you do so in order to keep up with some wonderful content coming out in the near future, as well as future episodes of your favorite podcast coming out throughout the rest of this weekend, onward to the next. On behalf of all of us at Triple P on the PCS Race Sports and Gaming Channel, the best in our racing since 2017 and where champions are made since 2010, I'm Dean Voiles, aka PCS Ray Blue Hedgehog 26, signing out. Until next week, my friends, sig the day, everybody. We'll see you then. Until then, good night. And you've been listening to Triple P here on the PCS Ray Radio Network, presented by Courtyard by Marriott.